Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and everyone in between, and welcome back to Scallop Storytime. And it is time to continue our journey into the realm of fan fiction turned canon, with plenty of retcons, with Long Live the Pumpkin Queen. Last time on our journey, Sally crossed over into the human world from Dreamtown, knowing that they would destroy the door behind her, which I think is dumb, because they're risking the ability for everyone on Earth to be able to sleep, so they've doomed humanity to a slow and painful death, so that's fun. Hopefully my fan theory will be correct, and Sally will just take over as the new, queen of sleep or whatever the fuck. So, let us move forward, shall we? We've got 4 chapters to go, so there'll be 2 more sessions of this. Chapter 16. In Jack's dazzling, wondrous stories of the human world, he often described cities that stretched as far as the eye can see, towering buildings, buses, and trains crammed with people traveling from one city to the next, from one country to another. A place thrumming and noisy and endless. It always sounded terrifying to me. A place to easily get lost in, possibly forever. But when I stepped through the doorway, it doesn't seem large at all. Just a library. Rather ordinary in size, even small, compared to the Lullaby Library. Velvet couches are arranged in perfect formation beside a fireplace, and a few upholstered chairs sit beside a bank of windows, the fabric in a tightly woven silk depicting a scene of meadow flowers and a handsome manor house in the distance. Well, yeah, it's not going to seem very big if you arrive inside a building. Bookshelves tower above me, which is, with most, reaching so far upward that there seems to be no way to retrieve them. Old tomes no longer read, no longer pulled from the shelf. I walk to the wall of windows and peer out at a green expanse of manicured lawn shimmering beneath the sunlight, with towering trees in pale white and soft buttery pink. I have no idea where I am. From what I can see, the stone building where I stand appears to stretch outward on both sides, massive and sprawling into the garden and beyond. It feels like something I've seen in a storybook. It feels like a castle. I'd start to turn away from the window, to head for the nearest door, when I hear someone breathing, low and soft. I'm not alone. I scan the room, and notice the back of a head resting against one of the upholstered couches, facing away from me. Someone is seated in the room, quiet except for her breathing. Tentatively, I move toward her, unsure of how she will react to a rag doll in her library, ready to run, to bolt towards the doorway on the far side of the library. If this was Halloween night, my appearance would be suitable for drawing out screams, but on this average evening, a rag doll is not something that should be seen in the human world. As I get closer, I notice she's more slumped than sitting, shoulders dropped, cheekbones slack. And from what I see next makes my stomach drop with a painful jolt. My head starts to swim. A fine layer of white sand covers her short gray hair, still pinned and curled perfectly in place. The sand is scattered at her feet and dusting her pressed and tailored clothes. She's asleep, just like all the others. Just like the Holiday Realms. Oh boy, everybody is asleep. This is even more like the Powerpuff Girls episode. The Sandman has already been here, to the human world, and my body wants to give out, to sink to the floor and press my forehead to the cold wood. Everyone is asleep. The small flicker of hope I felt, vanishes, blown out like a candle. How long ago was he here? And is he still in the human world? A place so vast I can't imagine finding him. I inch closer to the woman, feeling drawn towards her, pulled. She looks rather serene for someone who's fallen into such a sudden, baleful slumber. Around her neck rests a delicate row of pearls. In her ears, a matching pair of earrings. She is polished, courtly, a woman who surely doesn't comb her own hair or place her own shoes on her feet, a woman who is tended to. I know I should leave, find the closest cemetery, and slip back into Halloween Town. I need to get back, make that potion, and then somehow find the Sandman. But I feel captivated by this woman, intrigued by her neatly arranged dress and this seemingly private room where she sits. I want to I walk to a desk near the window, touching the small stack of books, poetry volumes, ancient literature, books on government and royal standards. Oh God, no. I turn in a circle and my eyes settle on a painting over the fireplace. I move closer, tiptoeing even though there is surely no one awake who might hear me and come to investigate my intrusion. The painting, I realize, is a portrait of the same woman who is asleep on the couch. She's a few years younger in the image, her speckled gray hair curled around her ears, and she's wearing a long white and gold dress with a sash and several odd things pinned to it, squares of paper and silver tokens, and on her head sits a crown, silver and ornate and shivering. Oh no! At the bottom of the gilded frame is a bronze plaque with the words, Queen Elizabeth II. Oh, okay. I glance back at the woman, then around the library. Ooh, okay. Before I left Dreamtown, my father said I needed to think of the name of a town where I passed through the doorway, but the only word that kept repeating in my mind, the word I still can't seem to shake, was Queen. Oh, the timing. Oh, my goodness. Oh, I'm okay. And now it seems I have arrived in the library of a queen, while the queen herself sleeps only a foot away. I walk to her and carefully settle onto the cushions beside her. I feel curiously drawn to her, the elegant tilt of her chin, even while she sleeps, and the graceful, delicate folds of her hands in her lap, a wedding ring on her left hand. Time stretches out and around me, the urgency with which I have entered the library briefly dulled. I peer up at the painting again, and although she doesn't appear quite as fussed over in real life as she does in the portrait, there is still something about her, a magnificence that cannot be measured in the weight of the silk that makes up her gowns, with the jewels draped over her pale human skin. She has the soul of a queen, sleeping or not, adorned and bejeweled or not. It's in the breath that rests in her delicate lungs, the refined features of her face, the firmness in her jaw. She is dignified and stately and noble. Oh my fucking God! This author is a simp for the royals. Oh my God. Oh, I can't. Oh, so the question is, did the Sandman kill the queen, or did Sally kill the queen? Is that what we're going for here? And this came out this year, so, I suppose some people are just born with it in their veins, but I wasn't. My queenly title came later, burdened and heavy and unnatural. I swear to God. Yet my gaze keeps flicking from the painting and back to her, trying to see something. The in-between part of her, that hidden, true part. If only she was awake, I could ask her what it feels like to be a queen in the human world. Yes, how to be a monarch who holds up the legacy of imperialism for all to see as though it is something to be coveted and worshipped. It feels suffocated at times by her duty. If she feels suffocated at times by her duties, by the glances and stares she receives from the people of her town, if they ever looked at her as though she's not quite good enough, I would ask her how long she has been queen, and if she wanted this role or if it was handed to her, forced upon her. I wanted to know the story of her life. On the oval-shaped coffee table sits a pot of tea, gone cold, and a delicate daisy-studded teacup beside it. the liquid inside half consumed. The scent is faintly of lemon. It feels like such a normal thing to be sitting and drinking tea in a library. Pleasantly normal. Yes, pleasantly normal inside her giant private library that is paid for by the taxes of the citizenry. She is a woman who could just as easily be a grandmother, who might bake cookies on Saturday mornings and knit scarves for her grandchildren well into the night, and worry about what color skin they may have. Maybe she is all of these things and also a queen. Bumblebee? Also a queen. Sorry, my dog just stole some mail. Maybe she can be both. A queen with a crown, her portrait hung on the wall, and a grandmother, and a woman. Maybe, and a woman, yes, that also. And maybe I can be both too. A rag doll and a pumpkin queen, in control of her own life, her own royal title. A queen who doesn't allow the sovereignty to overshadow the rag doll she's always been. I place my soft hand against the queen's, only gently, for fear I'm not supposed to. But I want to feel the humanness of her skin, to know that she is real, and that even a queen has blood running through her veins like any other mortal. A queen touching another queen's hand. I swear I can feel the nobility of her through her skin. Good God. Like a golden shimmering light. The strength of a woman who has seen many things, overcome much in her long life, yes, overcome her being born into extreme privilege. A woman who is meant for this role. Yet I'm certain that not every princess or duchess or queen has felt like they belonged. Not every crown worn inside this library, this castle, has felt steady or sure on the heads where they sat. Perhaps the crown has sat heavier on some heads than others, threatening to break them or reshape them into something else, something even mightier. Whew! I swallow down everything rumbling inside me, the hurt and the fear and the gut-churning doubt. I wonder if I can be shaped into something stronger too, sturdier, resilient. Even if my seams can be broken, that doesn't mean I will be. I draw my hand away, allowing myself to smile just a little. Thank you. Thank you for letting me bask in your presence. I whisper to this queen, Queen Elizabeth II, of some realm, some city within the human world. I stand up from the couch, looking back at her one last time. If I can save Jack and the others, I will also be saving her. A queen who will never know that she has met the Pumpkin Queen while she slept, or was brought back from a dreamless slumber because of me. Except she doesn't wake up. I cross the library to a set of doors, taking in a deep breath, stirring the leaves in my chest, and step out into a grand hall inside the castle, much longer than I was expecting. This woman is not just any queen. She might be the queen. Oh my fucking God. It's raining outside when I finally make my way through the labyrinth halls of the castle and step out into the dreary day. I leave through a tall metal gate, past two ornately dressed guards lying on the ground, one curled up like a child, the other with arms spread wide to the overcast sky, both sound asleep. Ahead of me, a wide walkway is framed by green grass and perfectly spaced trees. And seated as far as I can see are humans dozing on park benches, on sidewalks, or in the neatly trimmed grass. Oh God, it's raining and everyone's outside? Jesus! All of them are dropped cold where they stood, sand strewn over everything, filtering down from tree boughs, clinging to the skin of every person I see. The Sandman has already been here, everywhere, and if I can't stop him, they will all stay asleep, forever. I bite down on the ache inside me, the fear and gravity of what I must do, and what will happen if I fail. If I fail, the burden rests solely on me. I release the thread at my wrist, stepping past the gate. I have to find a way out of the human world, and I break into a run. How convenient that everyone is asleep and there's literally nothing hindering her from going forward. I break into a run, sprinting down the long thoroughfare, past sleeping bodies until the lawn gives way to buildings much too close together. I have to find a cemetery or a graveyard. Even a church will do if someone has been buried there. I turn onto a wide concrete road and keep running. Jack was right when he said the human towns are unlike any of the holiday realms. They're much, much larger. And as I make my way up the streets, searching for anything resembling hallowed land, a place where humans have buried their dead, everything is eerily quiet. Only the sound of birds and the soft rain against the street. I press on, searching down the rows of brick homes stacked side by side, shops with open signs in their windows, but everyone asleep inside. When I reach a corner or a side street, I turn left and then right. I have no idea where I am. I spot a library set back down from the street, but I know that I wouldn't return to Dreamtown now, even if I wanted to. The doorway back into the Lullaby Library has surely been destroyed. No going back, only forward. I pass a market, a hair salon, a clothing store with an array of oversized handbags and colorful shoes and sparkly necklaces in the window display. Still, everywhere, people are sleeping, snoring, clutching paper coffee cups spilled onto the ground, some sitting with automobiles slumped against steering wheels. The city sits entombed in silence. No car horns or wailing babies or the thrum of human activity. Nothing. At last, as the light in the sky begins to dim, the doubt growing larger inside me, I finally spot an old stone archway, a high wall, and through it, I find what I've been looking for. Relief shudders through me, and I gulp down a breath as I step through the archway that reads Brompton Cemetery, and into an expanse of land dotted with carved stones. Comment if that's a real place. A graveyard. It's the largest cemetery I've ever seen, a place Jack would surely love. A long rectangle of green lawn lined with rows and rows of old, moss-coated and weather-worn gravestones gravestones, period. Rain pounds the earth, and the cold tickle of air against my neck reminds me of the cemetery in Halloween Town, a feeling that exists in every cemetery, it seems. That hint of death, of sorrow, of lives brought to an end. But I don't have to go far before I find a small stone structure, an ornate mausoleum, with spires along the roofline and a copper door, tarnished green from the rain. A tomb where the dead are placed to rest. I glance up at the path, the cemetery glistening in the wet air. I have passed through many realms, all the way to the human world, to a city made strangely silent, and now this mausoleum is my way home, my way back to Jack. I feel the leaves stir in my chest, knowing how close I am to finally seeing him again, and I pull open the door into the tomb, the cold inside like winter air, the dark absolute. I swallowed down the anxiety and fear beating against my tired seams, and I stepped through the mausoleum door into the cold dark, thinking of home. And when I step out the other side, through the dim, lightless burial chamber, I emerge into a familiar cemetery. I am back in Halloween Town. Finally. Chapter 17. Halloween Town is quiet. The wrong kind of quiet. The dark corners and shadowed alleys where the grim, monstrous things usually lurk have all gone still. Dead leaves thump in my chest, beating in my ears, and I move quietly through the cemetery. For a moment, I think the Sandman is gone, traveled to one of the other holiday towns, or still making his way through the human world. But as I creep through the shadows at the edge of town, I hear it, a low, humming croon, a whispered lull like water and wood smoke, coiling, creeping into my ears. The Sandman is here, searching for me. A chill travels down my seams, landing in my toes. He's looking for me, hunting me. But I have come back in search of him. I can't tell where he is, his voice echoing over rooftops, so I keep to the dark shadows, sprinting from one to another like a spider afraid of daylight. Now that I know the truth, that I was born in Dreamtown, I know his dream sand won't work on me. But I also don't know how deep his cruelty runs. If he discovers me and realizes he's unable to put me to sleep, What other awful, cold-blooded thing might he do? Maybe he'll rip me apart at the seams, stitch by stitch, until I am only a pile of dead leaves and shredded fabric. Nothing left to put back together. So I stay hidden, careful, tiptoeing through the dark. I make my way to the garden behind Dr. Finkelstein's lab, where I quickly gather the herbs I'll need: deadly nightshade, black valerian root, foxglove, and a pinch of corpse flower. Corpse flower? Wow! Okay. Meant to mimic the effects of the dead. I hope it will be enough. It has to be enough. That's gonna stink to high heaven. I sneak down the alley behind Dr. Finkelstein's lab, black shoes making the softest sound against the stone, when I hear the Sandman's humming song, the sounding closer than before, a slow, ghostly lullaby vibrating down the darkened streets. Silently, breath held tight in my linen chest, I slink along the perimeter of town, pausing beside the witch sister's apothecary, listening. A second passes, then another. I clutch the herbs in my hands, trying not to make a sound, but the Sandman has fallen quiet. Perhaps he's moved to the far edge of town, searching the woods. I step into the open, ready to dart the last few yards to the gate and into our home, when a shadow flashes overhead, dark and horrible. Him! Him! I nearly drop the herbs, scrambling back out of sight, back pressed to the stone wall, needles stabbing at my gut, the fear weaving up and down every inch of my threaded seams. But after a moment, the Sandman's shadow slips past the alleyway and moves farther back into town, into the dark. He didn't see me, and this is my chance. I push myself away from the wall and sprint the last several yards to the gate, taking 2 steps at a time, scrambling into our house. Okay, I have a question. She keeps talking about lost needles in her tummy, but she learned she wasn't created, she was born. So, how does that work? How do dolls have babies? And if they do they do it the normal way? Or do they make their babies, sew them and then sew them again so they get bigger? Why are there needles lost in her tummy? Is she born with that or made with that or whatever the fuck? Anyway. Inside, I yank the door closed and slide the lock into place. Gasping, my lungs screaming in my ears, my chest ringing. But I made it. Well, that was a teeny bit awkward, but okay. I mean, I guess it kind of works, but anyway. I climbed the spiral stairs to our room, clutching the herbs in one hand, and the threads along my chest humming, fingers trembling, when I step into the bedroom. And when I step into the bedroom, I find Jack right where I left him, asleep in our bed. Tears trail down my face. He's still here, and he's still asleep. I step farther into the room, about to cross the bed, when a shadow slips out from the closet, a deep growl echoing across the room. Zero drifts into the faint moonlight cast through the window, his teeth bared. Wait, he has teeth? Okay. A rumble in his chest. What chest? He's a sheet. Ready to protect Jack no matter what. But when he sees me, his ears suddenly drop and he rushes towards me, burying his head against my chest. "I'm okay," I whisper into his fur, folding my arms around him. "I made it back." He makes a whimpering sound, nudging in closer to my neck. "Thank you for staying behind," I say to him, "for watching Jack." Tears fall from my chin. I'm unable to hold them back. I've felt so alone since leaving Halloween Town, and now, being back in my home, my bedroom, and finding Zero still awake, has broken open a part of me. I feel a strange relief, woven together with the nagging prick of fear. Zero drifts back from me, his dog eye is damp at the corners. Zero can cry, oh! And I stroke my hands down his fur one last time before I hurry across the room to Jack. I drop the herbs onto the nightstand and climb onto the quilt beside him. My body heaves, my eyes burn with tears, and I rest my head against his chest and listen to the hollow echo. I close my eyes, and for a moment I wish was asleep just like him, lying side by side, each trapped in our own dreamless darkness. "Sally, come on, let's move. Let's make like you have a purpose." But Zero moves close and nudges his nose against my cheek, eyes blinking. Maybe he knows I can't stay here. I can't curl myself up with Jack and rest. I have to keep moving. The longer I stay in one spot, the more likely the Sandman will discover me. I run my fingertip along Jack's cheekbone. I'm going to try, I whisper, even though he can't hear me, and I place my mouth on his, kissing his sleeping lips. I'll make this right. It is a little weird. Using a bit of string from the spool in my pocket, I tie back my hair into a ponytail. Ooh, out of the way while I work, then hurry back downstairs to the kitchen. I retrieve a cast iron pot from a hook above the sink and light a fire, working quickly. This is the first time Sally's ever tied up her hair. I grind up the herbs, then place them into the pot, measuring 3 times the usual amount. Okay, yeah. It's a 3x concentration. It's enough to put a woodland giant to sleep for an entire year, but I need it to be strong. I will only get one chance for this to work. I'm going to kill him, basically. I'm very much going to kill him. I stir the simmering potion until it turns a bright, gruesome red, the same shade as Ruby Valentino's lips. But it's too bright, too obvious. Then I remember. I reach into the pocket of my dress, past the spool of thread, to the thing I'm looking for. When I pull it out, the leaves are slightly flattened, but it's still intact. The 4-leaf clover given to me by the leprechaun in St. Patrick's Town. He said it would bring me luck, and I need it now. I drop the green clover into the potion, and within seconds, the color turns a vibrant grassy green, reminding me of the damp meadow in St. Patrick's Town, freshly dewed with rain. The exact shade I need. I mean, hopefully the luck in the potion works in the brewer's favor and not the drinking person. Once the brew has boiled down and the scent is so rich and noxious, I feel lightheaded. Too bad she's not working with a fume hood. She should have done this in the lab, quite honestly. I pour it into a glass jar, stopping it with a cork. The potion is ready. Now to make the decoys. Back in our bedroom, I pull out the old sewing machine from the closet and gather the yards of fabric that the vampire prince and the witch sisters brought over for my absurd queenly wardrobe. I wanted to be rid of it all, hated the feel of the gauzy fabric pinned to my skin, but now it'll be useful. I tear off odd strips of fabric and begin sewing them together, pinching my tongue between my teeth while I work, stitching 6 patchwork dresses that look just like my own, 6 pairs of arms and legs, 6 faces and torsos. I worked through the night, sweat at my temples, fingertips worked raw. None of that sounds like something a doll would do, but okay. And when the sun finally breaks over the horizon, streaking a soft, dreamy orange through the windows, I stand from the sewing machine to survey my work, Zero hovering beside me, his head tilted curiously to one side. Across the wood table lie 6 lifeless rag dolls, each wearing a patchwork dress. Creepy. With the sun now sitting fat and bright in the sky, there are fewer shadowed places to hide, but I slink through the town, tiptoeing quietly along the streets, then pausing at each corner, listening for the Sandman. I can hear him in the distance, never far away, but I need to keep moving. I told Zero to stay at the house with Jack, and now I skirt along the edge of the town square, stopping to position the first doll in the doorway of the Weird Sisters apothecary, suspended by a string from the door frame so the wind catches it slightly, stirring the doll's arms and legs as though it's alive. A decoy. I hurried... Yes, thank you, Sally, we get it. I hurried to the outer border of town, stringing 3 more beneath the bare branches of the spiny, howling trees. Magpies cawing at me from the limbs. Wait, the magpies aren't asleep? Yeah, right. Making too much noise. Once secured, I dragged the last 2 dolls towards the center of town. There are fewer shadows to hide beneath, and the sun glaring down brightly from above, but I managed to hang one of the decoys in the massive spider's web on the east side of town square, suspended between 2 buildings, the fake rag doll's arms clinging to the sticky web. Briefly, the Black Widow scrambles down from her hidden perch to investigate the lifeless doll. She scurries over it, eyes like domes. Then, deciding there is no blood to be drawn from the fake doll, she hurries back up to her corner, tucked safely away where she won't be seen. I'm picturing the little Black Widow from Corpse Bride. Dragging the sixth and final doll, I cross the town square when I hear the Sandman's lullaby, but it's very different this time. Slower, a tiptoe over each rhymed word, and I realize he has located the first doll hanging from one of the howling trees. He thinks he's found me. There is a sudden quiet, a lull in his song, followed by a swift rustling. I can't see him beyond the row of black stone buildings, but I suspect he's blowing sand into the fake ragdoll's eyes, hoping she'll fall into a bottomless sleep. Is this guy blind or something? Unless she made them look exactly like her, look like her, like with color and everything, but okay. Another moment of quiet. No lullaby, no humming. And then the echoing crack of branches, like he's ripped the doll from the tree and tossed it onto the ground. His song resumes, followed again by silence. He's found another doll. I need to hurry. I reach the town... So this guy's like a bat or something? I reach the town hall and place the last rag doll on the steps, bending her legs at the knees and folding her arms in her lap to make her appear as though she's quietly enjoying the late morning sunlight, while the mayor snores behind her. The sound of more snapping branches echoes through the town, the crack and splintering of wood. He's found the other two dolls. With my leaves trembling in my chest, I hurry back towards the fountain. I'm almost to it, when from the corner of my vision, I catch sight of the Sandman, cloud-tinted robes dragging along the street, gray, wispy beard longer than I remember, and a cruel, awful look in his dark-rimmed eyes. He rounds a corner near the Witch Sister's apothecary, a slow, winding hiss leaving his lips. I drop to the ground, the jar of potion nearly slipping free from the pocket of my dress. If the jar broke and spilled noxious poison at my feet, the fumes might be enough to knock me into a deathly sleep forever. Carefully, I slide the jar back into my pocket, then scrambled beside the low brick wall that encircles the town center. It's hardly a hiding place, but I try to make myself small, coiled into a ball, just a heap of fabric, nothing more. The Sandman spots the fourth decoy in the doorway of the Witch Sister's shop, and quickly blows a handful of sand into its eyes. But the doll just hangs there, moving gently in the morning breeze. I can see the irritation cut along his forehead, and he rips the doll from the doorway, pulling off its stuffed cotton head and throwing it at the ground. Okay, fool me once, shame on me, but fool me twice. He grips the limp body, fool me once, shame on you, I was going to say. Fool me twice, etc. Fool me 4 times, you're officially that guy. He grips the limp body by one foot and drags it for several yards until he notices the fifth doll suspended from the spider's web. He drops the headless doll and darts towards the web, but he doesn't blow sand into its eyes. He stares at it suspiciously, drifting closer to touch one of the rag doll's hands. Oh, maybe now he's figured it out. His mouth seems to lift in a snarl, and he lets the rag doll's hand foul back into place. He knows it's a fake. He only knows it's a fake for the last time. He sees through the trick, and he rips it free from the web, breaking several of the spider's careful strands, then tosses it to the ground. I waited too long. I should have sprinted to the fountain when I first heard him in the howling trees. I should have made more decoys, but it's too late now. Yeah. The Sandman turns, scanning the town square, moving slowly, like he's sensing he's being watched. Something isn't right. He spots the last fake Sally perched on the steps of town hall, and he begins moving towards it, but not with the urgency he did when he spotted the others. His gaze darts to his left, the right, and I have to sink farther into the narrow shadow where I am hidden, tucking my arms and legs close. If he finds me, if he can't put me to sleep with the fake dolls, because his dream sand won't work on me, will he rip off my head just like the decoy, popping seams and broken thread, and my head is no longer attached to my body? When he's within a few yards of the last doll, I slink one leg out of the shadow, then the other. I risk stepping into the sunlight. I have to do this quickly, or not at all. My heart is a sledgehammer, my throat dry. The Sandman bends down to examine the fake doll. He pokes it with his white fingertips, suspicious. This is my chance. I sprint across the open space between the low wall and the fountain. The sun glares down at me. The air is too quiet, my footsteps too loud, everything moving in awful slow motion. At the fountain, I collapse down against the stone edge, my breathing ragged in my chest, a rasp and a wheeze. Maybe, if I'm lucky, I made it without being seen. I peer over the edge of the fountain, and I see the Sandman still hunched over the last rag doll. I only have a second or two before he tears it apart and then comes looking for the real rag doll, me. I remove the cork from the top of the jar, the scent so dreadful that my nose puckers, and I turn my face away, not wanting to breathe it in. I reach my arm over the edge of the fountain, and I pour the clover green potion into the water. It makes a swirling, bubbling sound as it mixes with the already green water, the color blending in perfectly, just as I'd hoped. Okay, so she's pulling the same shit she did in the first movie, using the fountain. Yeah. The air is briefly pungent with the scent before it drifts away on the wind, and I place the cork back into the bottle, taking a deep breath. Wait a minute. Wouldn't just pouring it into the fountain dilute it a whole bunch? Also, Anyway. Now, since I need to lure the Sandman across the town square, I will need to climb atop the edge of the fountain, wave my arms and shout, and when he races towards me, at the last final moment, I will jump out of the way and he will plummet into the fountain. Simple as that. Easy. Yeah, that'll work. I peek above the stone edge, looking across to the town hall. The Sally doll is just as I left her, resting on the steps, undisturbed. No thread snapped in half, no arms torn free, but the Sandman is gone. Uh-oh! A creeping, slithering sensation inches its way down my neck, the feeling of being watched. I whip around, sucking in a breath, and there, only a few yards away, hovering just above the ground, is the Sandman. How the hell is he gonna fall into the fountain if he can fly? Anyway, he's right behind me, staring me down, and there's nowhere to go. My heart pounds, the breath stuck at the top of my throat. This isn't how it was supposed to go. His eyes are flat and dark, a wad of sand gripped tightly in his fist. He no longer hums his lullaby, no longer tries to lure me with pleasant words. He's been searching for me, has been seen through my trick, and now he's found me. There's a sharp-edged steeliness in his gaze, a fury that won't be easily satiated. Simply stealing my dreams might not be enough for him now. He will want to make me suffer. He will want to tear me apart and pull out my stuffing by the clump, hearing every thread snap, every seam peel open. I take a step back, my heels hitting the edge of the fountain. He moves closer, slowly, cautiously. He doesn't trust me, and when he's only a foot away, he sneers down at me. "Tricky girl," he says, his voice still a sing-song, thick gray eyebrows drawing up into his forehead. "You pretend you are a rag doll, make-believe fabric and string." He squints at me, like it's hard for him to find the words, like he's not used to speaking anything other than riddles and songs. "Where have you been hiding?" he asks. He doesn't know that I ventured to his home in Dreamtown, that I ventured through the human world, nor that I'm immune to his dream sand. Still, I swallow and lean away from him, but he's too close now, muted white robes brushing the cobblestone, draped across him like wet curtains, and I have no way to force him into the fountain. I felt so certain this would work, that I could save everyone, even the human world, but the moment is slipping away. The element of surprise is lost. I thought she was going to throw it at him. His eyes gleam an awful pale white. His hair sticks up from his head, ashy and wild. His beard long and wispy and tangled. I gulp down a breath, meeting the anger in his eyes, but my heart is beating like bones shaking loose from my rib cage, and my legs want to collapse beneath me. That was a sentence. He lifts his hand towards me, opening his palm, dream sand spilling between his fingers like waterfalls. He draws in a long, full breath, cheeks puffing like foam like moons. Then he exhales a sudden gust like a northern wind. I don't flinch. I don't blink. I let the sand envelop me in a cloud, dusting my nose and cheeks and eyelashes. I breathe it in, unafraid. And for one quick second, I wonder if my parents were wrong. Perhaps the sand will work on me. I've spent my life outside of Dreamtown. Maybe I'm not as immune to it as I once might have been, and the sand will send me into a fathomless deep sleep, unwaking for eternity. But as the sand falls to the ground around me, little grains sinking into the stone cracks, I blink, and I look up at the Sandman, unaffected, still awake. His expression has gone slack with confusion. "I'm not pretending to be anyone," I say to him. "I'm Sally Skellington, the Pumpkin Queen." There's a warmth in my chest now, heat and fury and anger. "But I was born in Dreamtown." The words feel like their own conjuring, a spell, a ritual, or a bedtime riddle to cast things into the stars and make them true. I feel suddenly awake and alive, a woman who isn't simply a rag doll, but a ruler who has traveled all the realms, even the human world, to set things right, who feels a spark, a wrath growing inside her. The Sandman's mouth turns into a deep, bewildered frown, his eyes narrowed as if he's unsure whether this is another trick. If I might just be another fake doll like the others. But the others didn't talk, but this is no ruse. I am the queen of this realm, and I won't let this monster take away everything I love. Behind the Sandman, a shadow slips through the air, quick and quiet, and I stiffen my shoulders back, knowing. "I'm the one queen you won't be able to put to sleep," I say to him, my mouth gone flat, thinking of the human queen I met in the library. I suck in another breath, bracing myself. The shadow moves closer, pacing towards the Sandman. Zero! I told him to stay with Jack, but he came anyway. Maybe he sensed something wasn't right, that I was in danger. Maybe he's been following me this whole time. I clench my teeth, eyes trained on the Sandman. "I'm the queen who will stop you." Zero closes the gap. 10 feet, 8 feet, 3, 1. I pinch my eyes closed and launch myself out of the way, tumbling across the cobblestones, feeling several threads pop at the impact, breaking apart. Oh no, I've broken my knot spine. My leaves rise up into my nose, but I jerk my head around just in time to see the Sandman, his eyes wide as pond stones, right before Zero barrels into his back, and the Sandman tumbles forward, off balance, and pitches headfirst into the fountain. Water erupts over the side of the fountain, like when Corpse Kid does one of his lopsided cannonballs. And in an instant, the Sandman disappears into the deep, deep water. Oh my God, what a climax. I hold in my breath, watching, waiting. Zero races to my side, whimpering, nosing me in the cheek. "I'm okay," I tell him, nodding. "Thank you." He saved me. I lay a hand against his neck, feeling his ghostly warmth. That's an oxymoron. Beneath my palm, and I'm about to let out a long, relieved exhale when the water suddenly rises over the edge of the fountain like a great swelling wave, crashing and dispersing. Uh-oh! The Sandman appears, hair and beard soaking wet, white robes now stained green, and still awake. The potion didn't work. It wasn't strong enough. I should have made a 10x solution. Maybe if I had let it steep longer. If I had added more deadly nightshade. The Sandman, I didn't check my concentrations. I only made it a 2-molar solution. The Sandman crawls toward the edge of the fountain, his eyes on me, mumbling something, a lullaby, a string of words that are unintelligible. I gulp and scramble back, trying to push myself up, but my feet kept slipping under me. Panic screams from my chest. I need to run, but where will I go? Into the woods? To hide? For how long? Forever. I manage to get to my feet, to follow Zero, who's already flitting away, about to flee past the gate and into the woods. Sandman's eyes flutter briefly. He mutters something else, words I can't make out. "Run, run, run," my mind yells. But something keeps me rooted to the ground. A curiosity. I feel something. A feeling. and as I watch the Sandman's eyes shudder closed again and then open. And I watch the Sandman's eyes shudder closed again and then open, closed, open, closed. He makes it to the edge of the fountain, arms slung over the side, trying to pull himself free. But it's no use. The potion was strong enough after all. Oh! Carefully, I take a step closer to him, a smile inching up the corners of my mouth. Uh-oh. He tries to speak one final time, but no sound comes out, only a muttering exhale. And after one last slow blink, he collapses against the stone edge of the fountain. The Sandman is fully, impossibly, dead asleep. Oh, boy. Well, that was something. Okay, main conflict solved. Now it's probably just all falling action from here. We'll see where this goes. Tune in next time for the end of the book, and take care of yourselves. Have a nice evening. Ciao, Bellas.